This is Dynasty Portfolio Weekly, hosted by Scott Connor.
Welcome back onto the trading floor for another episode of Dynasty Portfolio Weekly. And this week we are going to talk about a must-do tip if you are a portfolio dynasty player, and it relates to draft picks. We are a couple months away from rookie drafts. If you play on Sleeper, your leagues have probably already been rolled over. If you're still playing on my fantasy league, which I have about half of my leagues on my fantasy league, it's just about to get to the rollover to where it rolls over into 2024. And at that point, your picks will actually become numbers. You will see the 112 instead of a 2024 first. And I think it's very important to be tracking this across your portfolio. A lot of people track the amount of shares they have of a player, their rostership of certain tiers of players. You can use Dynasty Daddy, which is a pretty good site to do that with your player shares, and you can look at how they're valued in terms of keep, trade, cut values. It's a nice place to organize everything. But when it comes to draft picks, I think it's very important. It's something that I've been doing for a couple years now, is once the league is rolled over, I will go in and I will just tick box which picks I have in that league. And then I have a running list, which you cannot get this from another site. And if it's out there, please let me know, because I would love to use it, check it out, see if it fulfills what I'm trying to go for here. But I will actually track how many picks I have in certain ranges. So I will literally create a Google Doc or a Google Sheet or an Excel spreadsheet to go through and say, at any point, you ask me how many picks at the 108 do I have this year? And I can tell you. And you go all the way down the line. Now, typically when I get to fourth round picks and below, I'll just put something like pick 37 or however you want to put it. Those are all kind of just added together. But even if you just say anything after the fourth round. So I usually do it 1 through 48. If you're in different formats where it's a 14 team or a 16 team, or there's an extra pick because of a toilet bowl, you can still keep the number. So it doesn't necessarily change that. You're just tracking where you have picks. So in this circumstance, you could have pick 25, but in your league, that might be the 212. And that would be because there is a toilet bowl pick at the 113. But I still know I have a pick 25. So whether that's the 212 or in a traditional league, it's the 301, I'm tracking how many picks I have in certain ranges. So if you were to ask me, how many 103s do you have? I could tell you 6 of them. If you ask me how many picks inside the top 4 do I have? I could tell you 14 of them. And I'm just giving hypothetical examples, but it's nice to be able to visualize that in one spot and say, okay, here is what I'm working with. And it gives you an idea kind of where you're going to get exposure to players in upcoming rookie drafts. So that's easy for 2024 because there's pick numbers. But how do you do it for future picks? If you play on Sleeper, again, you can trade 3 years of picks in advance. MFL, it's probably subject to whatever the commissioner sets it up as. Other platforms, the same thing. But I want to also track my future picks. So one thing I will also do is when I go in and pull the picks for a league, so I'll click on a league, see what picks I have, log those on my spreadsheet, and I've started to use other sites like Dynasty Daddy to track my player exposure, meaning I don't have to do a lot of that manually anymore. But for the picks, again, there isn't anything I'm aware of where that is done for you. So I just do it myself. So I'll go through when I pull my 2024 picks and I log, hey, I have the 307, which that's pick 31. I have the 108, that's pick 8. I'll also jot down the future picks that I have as well. And then I'll go out just 1 year when I track that. Meaning I will not put in my own 2026 picks until we get to the rollover in 2025. But what I will do is if I'm in a league, let's say the middle of next season, and I acquire a 2026 pick or a 2025 pick. Now, at that point, my 2025 picks will already be logged in there. But if I acquire a future pick, so for instance, this year, if I acquired a 2025 first, I would log that in there. Now, I may not put my 2025 picks in there just yet, because unless I trade them away, I assume that I already have them because I haven't moved them. I just haven't really added them yet to the screen. So at any point, a year ahead, or in this case, 2 years ahead, because technically 2025 will be the next year, and I've already got those tracked. But even through 2026, I can tell you how many added picks I have in those years. So however you want to do it, I think it's important to be able to track that. Now, if you want to go a step further and you want to try to gauge at least a year out, if you're going to have early firsts, mid firsts, late firsts, that's a little tougher because you have to do a little manual work, go in and look at the teams, maybe use something objective to tell you how good or bad the teams are of the pick that you're holding. But I like to go in and actually log my picks. So at any point, if I click on my spreadsheet, I can pull up how many 2025 firsts that I have added. I haven't gone through and added all of my 2025 firsts that I already hold, but just in terms of additional picks, I have a total of 7 extra 2025 firsts. So across my portfolio of leagues, I have added 7 more. Now, there might be 1 or 2 that I've moved, but when I go in and I reconcile that number, after I log all the 2024 picks to be actual numbers, I will also update the 2025 picks to say, okay, out of my 43 leagues, I currently have 56 2025 firsts. Now, that doesn't tell me where they're allocated. One league, it might be 7 of them. One league, there might not be any. But the idea is you're constantly keeping track of those assets as well. And when you do that, I think you get a much better snapshot of the strength of your portfolio, the strength of a certain team, or in general, just the overall value you have in draft picks. And it's something that we don't really know because no one can go and look at your portfolio, for instance, on Dynasty Daddy and say, okay, I can see where Scott's exposure is. What's not on there is the draft picks. Now, you can go and pull up individual teams and see if they have draft picks, but I want to track my picks going forward. This is especially true with later picks. And you may say, does it really matter how many 2025 thirds you have or how many 2026 seconds or fourths that you have? Yes and no, but I think it's nice to be able to go to a league very quickly without having to pull up the actual site, click on one of the tabs on your spreadsheet or whatever you're using to track it, and say, in that specific league, I have 5 future third round picks. I have 2 future seconds. And I can go over to my actual total and I can see that maybe I have currently, I'll give the example where I'm currently holding in 2025, I am holding an extra 29 third round picks. So across my leagues, I'm holding 69% more third round picks than what I have leagues because I'm given 1 in every league and I have 69% over that. So I'm at 169% capacity. So using percentages, I think, is also a good baseline to track your picks. But it's something that I think is a must-do for portfolio players. Unfortunately, again, I haven't found a tool that does it for you. I think it might be a little complicated with how things are synced with different platforms. But again, I think it's a must-do if you're playing in even 15 leagues. I mean, I speak to portfolio players, but I haven't really defined what a portfolio is. I think if it's enough where you can't always say or recite, if I ask you, what picks do you have in your leagues? And even if you're in 10 leagues, you may have to go, I'm not sure, I have to go look. If that's the case, I would be tracking my picks just like I track my exposure to players, just like I pay attention to something like Dynasty Daddy's portfolio where I can see how much rostership of this quarterback or how much rostership of this receiver that I have. Do it with your draft picks. If anyone out there can develop something that can help track this, I'm all ears. Always open to ideas that allow us portfolio players to operate more efficiently, allow us to organize our teams, organize our thoughts, and be able to come up with macro strategies because I have it all in one spot. So there's a lot of development that can be done on that end. But a must-do for portfolio players, track your draft picks, do it a year ahead, do it 2 years ahead. Even if you go, there's not a lot of movement with my teams or with my league on picks that are 2 or more years out, that's okay. Track it. Get it started. Come up with a system. It doesn't take long once you've built the foundation. Once you have the system to do it, it's not difficult to go in and actually update it every once in a while. So must do, track your draft picks, be able to recite where you have pick exposure, what ranges you may not have picks, and where you might have excess where you can spend during the season. Check out everything at destinationdevy.com. Subscribe to the podcast feeds, both Wake Up and to the Destination Devy radio feed, along with the news feed show that Ray has put out as well. So there's 3 feeds. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the like button, share the video. Let me know if there's any future ideas you want to hear on Dynasty Portfolio Weekly. And then everything can be found in our Discord for bonus content, destinationdevy.com or patreon.com/allgas. Track those draft picks. Hit me up if you have a system that helps better than what I'm currently doing. I'm all ears.